This is Akashvani. Time for a weekly program, Our Guest. I hand over the mic to the show host, Nitish Arora, for the same.
Welcome to all the listeners of Akashvani on Our Guest. Today is Vijay Diwas. India, as a nation, as a policy, never wants to go to war. But unfortunately, even after independence, so many wars were thrust upon India. And when it comes to tackling the aggressor, India has never shown its back. Vijay Diwas is a celebration day for the victory of 1971 war. To talk about this Vijay Diwas, we are very fortunate to have defense correspondent Mr. Mayank Singh with us, who's got a career of over 3 decades covering our army. Mayank ji, welcome to our studios.
Thank you so much for having me here, sir, and for giving me this opportunity.
To start with, let's first go to those days, that time, kind of a flashback. What actually was the reason behind this war?
It's a very interesting question because talking about will give you a reflection of how India and Pakistan came into being and then why Bangladesh had to come as an independent nation. You know, there was a lots of discrimination happening, which was like Eastern Wing and Western Wing. Western Wing, which is now Pakistan. People living in East were facing lots of discrimination, which is on the basis of language, on the basis of they were discriminated and looked upon as in a condescending manner, as if they were not equals to what Punjabis in the West were or the other people in the Western Pakistan were.
But that is happening inside the Western Pakistan also. Still people are being termed as Muhajirs, people who migrated from India to Pakistan, being of their own religion.
Absolutely right. That's what the point is actually. Interestingly, there's a term which is used as two-nation theory. So Pakistan, people say that a concept which came into being because of the two-nation theory, it failed there. Having built a country based on a particular religion, it did not succeed because people themselves were killing each other. That discrimination was also shown towards people who were not speaking Urdu.
Especially the Bangla
people. They had their own independent culture. They had the pride. They were very enterprising people, which later could be seen because economy of Bangladesh was doing so very well as compared to Pakistan, and even now it does well. You can understand that point. So it all failed. But before that, when this discrimination started happening, the poor people, they had to run away from their own nation, their own country of the time. And army, which was specifically led by Punjabi leadership, it was thrust upon them in Eastern Wing, which is now Bangladesh. So all this, the cruelty, the wickedness, the kind of discrimination, the hate which they faced, so many people, they ran away from their country that even our economy was facing lots of problems.
That East Pakistan was almost like a colony of West Pakistan.
It's absolutely right. When India tried to tell the world that, see, this is a major problem. And the problem doesn't engulf only Eastern Wing of the Pakistan. India was facing that bigger problem. Influx of refugees. People did not listen to us. So the leadership of the time, they took a very measured decision. Interestingly, the military decisions were also, and their advices were also taken into being because initially it was planned that war might take place in May. But military leadership, as they advised, it was shifted to a time wherein it could be feasible because of weather conditions also. And it is on 3rd of December that almost 6-7 air bases of the country, they were attacked. And that was proclamation of war against India. And in the introduction, you have rightly said, Indian military never shows it back once it is thrust upon them. The bull was taken by the horn. And our leadership, they went inside Pakistan in such a manner that the Pakistan army of the time did not have anything to react, whether on border or within the capital, which was Dhaka of the time. And
but this war spread on both the frontiers, on the east and west also.
Yes. As the military commanders, when they talk about the tactics and the planning of the time, they had to balance both, not only that side. Even Operation Trident, which was a naval war operation, it had to be planned in the oceans, Arabian Sea and Bay of Bengal as well. So you hinted to a very pertinent point that it went on every side actually. If you see, India being a peninsula was having its warships within the oceans, and on the Western Wing and an Eastern Wing, Air Force was fighting, Army was thrusting itself into the both sides.
But it was believed that Pakistani army was better equipped. They had better war machinery, and yet India just toppled them and made them submit everything. That was great. Let's talk about the tactics of this war.
So, as they always say that ideas rule the world. And also Josh is something, motivation, inspiration. Indian military is led by its leadership so well that men fight with whatever they have at the time, and they give the results. The kind of, we often talk of tanks, let's say armored warfare, pattern tanks, which were the most modern tanks of the time. Pakistan military was being updated, modernized by the best equipments of the world, and India was fighting with whatever it had. So it finally boiled down to the kind of tactics, the bravery, because it's not always the equipment which is useful. The man behind the machine, we often say that.
And the individual leaders, the war leaders.
Oh my God.
You can name a few because in their sector they actually turned the tables on Pakistan and they were like awestruck.
And what you're saying is actually, giving me a kind of a excitement in myself.
And goosebumps whenever you think of those.
Of course.
days.
When you read of people, youth like Lieutenant Arun Khetpal, you realize a man who is standing in front of the enemy, telling them to fire upon his chest, and he's leading his men directly from the front. Stories of bravery, the panache also, style. The men were aware that they might face a bullet, but they had to lead their men with example. So what you said is absolutely right. The best of the equipment which Pakistan army had.
You brought in pattern tanks. Pattern tanks were like, they were glorified like invincible. And they were like toys for us.
We did not even had proper recoil guns which were killing the pattern tanks of the time. Air Force, which was not that modern as Pakistan Air Force was. But the kind of the Air Force officers, the way they were, the combat pilots, their tactics, their bravery, decision of the time. Because if you chicken out at the right moment, when you're taking decision, that might give you the death. But here there were men who were taking the most courageous decisions, even in the face of the biggest dangers they had. Pakistan military was also a professional military, which the Indian military of the time, which is British military, they bifurcated, and Pakistan military was equally professional. But then gradually the kind of dissent they had because of the leadership and the bad examples they created, it also had a huge dent on their morale, and which happens even today.
Coming to the eastern sector, Vijay Diwas is also associated with the liberation of East Pakistan and making of Bangladesh. I mean, that was a huge war victory. So many soldiers surrendered, and the kind of support that the natives of East Pakistan gave to Indian army. Tell us something about that.
So when the entire planning and decision was taken, the planning was being done, it was factored that since the people themselves are rising against the rulers there, which was West Pakistan of the time, and the military, which was mostly from West Pakistan, was thrust upon them, was doing cruelty upon them. It was the people who rose. So India, they launched a operation which is now known as Operation Jackpot. It was that Indian military will help the people who wanted to fight liberation war.
You have that Mukti Vahini.
So they named that setup known as Mukti Bahini. And those youth, the people, they were recruited, they were assisted by Indian military, they were trained, equipped, and also advised to fight this war. And they did very well with the support of the military. But when it came to lots of issues on us also, we also went in for war.
But this particular war was a diplomatic coup also, because the war is fought in a battlefront, and India being a developing nation, a third world nation, nobody in the world, the developed world, ever expected that a country like India should go to war and be like this decisive a war. So tell us about the diplomatic victory and how India scored a few brownie points in the international diplomacy.
So Pakistan was apple of American eyes. As we have already brought out that their military was equipped with the best state-of-the-art weaponry. Also, the diplomatic environment of the time was shaping things pro-Pakistan. But the leadership, which was led by Mrs. Indira Gandhi, she went all around. The ministry, the people, the cabinet, they spread all across the world. And they were talking to people, convincing them that, see, we are facing the real problem. It may be happening within Pakistan, but the people are facing. So that is engulfing us.
And we cannot afford the deluge of population that is coming to crossing the borders and reaching out to India, the refugees.
Yes, and as you said, we were also developing. We did not have that much of resources. It created a crunch for us. But people did not listen to us. It was a bipolar world of the time. So one side was America and the other side was Russia. And India was part of the non-aligned movement. It was telling the world, let's live peacefully together for each other. And in 1970, India had signed a treaty with Russia. And as we were talking, Americans, they had moved in their warships towards the Indian side. It was a kind of a projection. So came in Russia also, they also projected. So if you see diplomatically, people, we had brought in our point, we have told the world that there are lots of issues. If something happens, it's not going to be our fault. And it was well taken ultimately because Bangladesh got recognition as an independent nation. So you can use the appropriate term. It was also a diplomatic coup.
Talking about the war itself, can you share with our listeners a few of the war heroes? I mean, every single soldier is a hero in itself. Not a single general or commanding officer will say that I am the hero. He will always vouch for the soldiers, the foot soldiers. I understand that every soldier was a hero. But then there were strategists, there were commanding officers. Can you name a few war heroes of 1971 and to our listeners and their bravery?
Lieutenant General Sagat Singh. General Sagat was a man who had a man of intellect and sense. And he should be rated as one of the top class military commanders of the country because he took decisions to directly ingress, to put in our soldiers straight away to the capital and creating a situation wherein the enemy could not understand how to react. So that capitulated the complete military leadership of Pakistan at that time. Also, General Jasjit Singh Arora. Why I'm taking these names, we can talk of the actual fighting which was taking place on ground also. General VK Singh was also fighting as one of the junior leaders of the time. Another interesting aspect is BSF, Border Security Force, was also enmeshed with the military. And they were also equally showing great examples of bravery all across the borders. So General Manik Shah was also there because he advised the government of the time that the war should be shifted to a particular time period, which will support in terms of weather conditions, in terms of environment also. But then we can't be doing this unless our leadership, which was second lieutenants and captains of the time, they were fighting that war. And as we spoke about Lieutenant Ketpal, second lieutenant, I think he was second lieutenant Ketpal. It was such leadership which was fighting on, and any military is as good as the leadership is. So we had great leadership amongst the time, and even now it is the young leaders of the Indian military who take the things to the enemy.
On this anniversary of Vijay Diwas, the 1971 war, how would you like to conclude today's discussion on this, and what message should be put across to the listeners?
We should be knowing more about Indian military. They have sacrificed a lot for us. Also, Indian armed forces are undergoing a major change, transformation, which will make it more powerful, further coordinated, and in terms of it will shine off further. So we need to know about our military, the war heroes, whether it's Army, Navy, Air Force, also our paramilitary forces, as we were talking about BSF, Coast Guard also. Now it is doing yeoman's job. I at times feel that we, the youth, is not that much aware of the Indian military. So my only expectation is that we need to know more further. And All India Radio is doing a great job with profiling the kind of military commanders or the leadership or the people who sacrifice for the nation.
So friends, these days are not only commemorative days, but these are the times when we have to again rededicate and commit ourselves to the cause of the nation and stand by our army. As I said at the very beginning that India never thrusts a war on anyone. Aggression is never in our blood, that we have to seize somebody's land or seize the opportunity. But if any moment, any time our own sovereignty is attacked upon, we will defend our land, our motherland, like anything, like any battles that the free India has seen, and in future also. We are always better ready, better prepared. But the reins are not only in the hands of the army, but they are in every citizen's hand. So you have to join hands and not only celebrate the victory, but understand that at what cost this victory is come, and be part of that endeavor. Thank you so much, Mayank Singh ji, for being our guest today.
Nitish ji, it's such a pleasure that you are conducting this program, and I'm sure it will help the people to know much more about it. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you.
You were listening to the weekly program Our Guest, that is broadcast every Monday at 9:15 a.m. Don't forget to tune in next week, same day, same time and same frequency for more on Our Guest. Have a nice day.